Greetings everyone, my name is Kenneth M. Victoria from 3ITE, and I'm here to present my laboratory examination in ITP 105. Now, I have here my created network infrastructure with already set up of IP address subnet mask of each PC and assumptions of the gateway. So the first thing we have to do is configuring or creating a VLAN using a VTP. So let's proceed to admission. Config D, then host name. For setting up the host name, okay, VTP mode server, VTP domain, and VTP password admission pass. And now for creating the VLAN, which is a VLAN 10, and naming the VLAN. Now let's configure and passing those VLAN to our PCs. Int fa1/1 switch port mode access, switch port access VLAN 10. And next to the next configuration. This sequence /0/1 access switch port access VLAN 10, and that is the commanding of setting up the VLAN using VTP in our area network of VLAN admission. And first we're gonna implement also the int fa2/1 switch port mode trunk, and then exit. That's all for the whole setup of switch, and we're gonna do that all switching configuration to all area networks or to all different departments until to the main office. And that's, let's go proceed to the next one. The host name, switch 1 Victoria, and that is accounting, and VTP mode server, VTP domain accounting server, and VTP password accounting pass, and creating the VLAN, which is a VLAN 20, naming the VLAN, and setting up the interfaces. And the next interface, which this is int fa mode access switch port access VLAN 20. Now let's proceed and setting up the mode trunk, switch port mode trunk. And exit. That's all. We have set it up on our area of accounting. So we're gonna do it also in different areas like in register. Switch to then VTP domain server VTP password and setting up the VLAN 30, naming it the VLAN. Then after that, setting up the interfaces. Another interfaces. Then also the trunking. Switch port mode trunk exit. Now we have done the trunking, so let's proceed on the main office. The host name switch 3 Victoria main office, then VTP mode server and VTP domain main office server and VTP password main office pass, and then setting up the VLAN 40, naming it, and setting up the interfaces. Another first interfaces. Port access VLAN 40, and setting up the trunking. And that's all. So we have set it all. So now let's proceed back to admission, where we're gonna set the router. So setting up the InterVLAN and setting up the gateway also, and no shutdown. int fa, and also we're gonna proceed on int fa 0/0 point the VLAN number 10. So let's see, we have interrupted the sub interfaces encapsulation 1q, then 10, then adding the IP address that serves as the gateway, x8, which is 10.1.255.255.2, and exit. That's all. Now let's proceed to other router for accounting. Now let's set up the int a, no sh, now int fa 0/0 point 20 to get into the sub interface, and dot 1q 20 IP add 192.168.11.1 and exit. Now let's proceed to other router for registrar. Then we're gonna go to int and int fa 0/0 point 30 encapsulation 1q 30 IP add 92.168.12 and 255.255.255.0 exit. Now we have already set it up, and last one to the main office CLI and interface, no sh, int fa 0.40 0.40. Now encapsulation dot 1q 40 IP add to add the gateway for main office, and is 13.1.255.0 and exit. That's all. Now let's provide the serial connection by applying the serial IP address for every serial port. So let's go to router 1 config. First, look at every serial number 2 is equivalent to 1. So 192.168.14.1 on that. That's on done. All serial number 3 is equivalent to 192 is equivalent to 15.2 15.2 all on that. Now let's proceed to add main office router, which is gonna check the serial number 3. It's 192.168.14.2 to 192.168.17.1, since it's serial number 2. Now let's set up the other, complete the command. 192.168.17.2. Now 192.168.16.1. On that one, thing is on. Now for the last part, or second to the last, it's 192.168.15.1, and on. It's on that. Let's on that 192.168 that 16.2, and on. Now we have set it up. So we're gonna proceed now on setting the static routing. So all we want to do is all PC or all department can connect to main office, while other departments cannot connect to other departments. So the only restriction is only department to main office is allowed, but department to department it's not allowed. We can implement that by adding the security feature by using the static routing, by implementing the right path or next hop, so that only the accessible path will given the purpose of stopping a department to department messaging or sending of data, and so that department to main office only is the allowed of sending of data. So first we're gonna check this on router. So first we're gonna change the host name. Host name to Victoria, to router 0 Victoria admission. Now let's proceed to config, setting up the static route. So I want the admission to send to main office. So first the network destination, at 13.0 255.255.255.0, and the next hop will be this passage. It's 192.168.14.0. Now I want this router of admission to accept any data from accounting, since the accounting will passage or will go to both sides of admission VLAN and registrar VLAN. So the first is accessible of the going pass through on the VLAN of admission. So to do that, so the path will always stay, or the path will be indicate the VLAN accounting, and it will consider the 15. So it means it accept any data from VLAN accounting that will go to this path, which is the 192.168.15. So that is the purpose of this, adding the static route of this one. So that is the total of implementing in router 1. So want to change the router. 0 or router 0, which is for main office static route. So we want it to accept 192.168.10.255.255.255 from this serial port or serial passageway 192.168.14.0. Okay, we have completed subnet mask. Sorry for my mistake, and add. And now it will accept from accounting, so 11, that will go to passageway 14 also. Now we also want the main office to accept data from registrar. So I'm gonna indicate the registrar, which is 12 and the 17. So we're gonna change it to 17. So this is the path that I am talking to. Add that. So now we have completed setting up. But first we're gonna set the host name, router 1 Victoria main office. Okay, now we have set that. So let's proceed to other, which is the accounting. Setting up this one is to identify the passageway of our data from accounting to main office. So all to do that is we're gonna target the main office as a destination 0, 255.255.0, and the next hop is this first hop is 15, 192.168.15.0. Now the next hop will be 14, so from this 15 going past through this VLAN to 14 serial port, so we're gonna add the 14, and that's all. So the next thing we have to set up is on registrar. First we're gonna go to CLI hostname router 3 Victoria accounting. Okay, so now let's set up the router of registrar. First we have to set up the exit hostname. Okay, router 2 Victoria registrar. Okay, now from implementing the static, so as this is the other side of sending the data from accounting, we're also gonna implement the same other side that we implement from accounting to admission until it goes to main office. So to do that, we're gonna set up first the target 192.168, which is 13.0, 255.255.255.0, and this passageway, which is 192.168.17.0. Now to achieve the passageway of any data from accounting, we have to do this. So we're going to target the accounting 11, so 16 is the first hop. We're going to add that as a first hop, and the second hop will be the 17, so we're going to also add it. Now to do that, we're already done with our interface connectivity. Now we're going to set up the testing. So let's see how my work gonna work out. So see that sending of PC of VLAN 10 to main office. Supposed to be the first one will failed. So we're gonna try it. It will be successful. Any try or the first try of every part of VLAN will always be failed. But once it's already know, it will now go successful all the way. So from counting to so as you can see it failed, so it's just communicating with the data, so to identify itself in order before going back to successful. So this one also and this one also. As you can see, all the department to main office are now successful. Now we're gonna try department to department. So we're gonna clear this. Since we're gonna try department to department, that is prohibited or not allowed based on the problem. So we're gonna try from admission to accounting. So it failed. Try to other side. Failed. Try again to other PC. Failed. Going back versa, vice versa. It's always failed. Now passing the counting to registrar. As you can see, it will fail eventually. Now here to see it clearly. Now registrar to accounting. It's failed. It's always failed. It never gets successes. On the rules, there is a security measure that it will not allow to accept department to department. So as you can see, everything that you want to do of passing department to department is not allowed via our implementing of static routing. So as we all know, the static routing is just a way to identify the path that the data of the or the path of the communication, but it also implements adding security measures to disallow any connections of inter-VLANs or any VLANs that have a chance to connect to each other. By implementing the right or disabling or not enabling to implement any static routing will also give the feature of adding a security measure that will not allow any passing of VLAN to other VLANs. And also it also makes the guiding path of the data from department to main office in order to guide the data whatever the path it is going through. So that is the concept of the static routing, and the concept of the inter-VLAN is implementing a connection between VLANs. So as you all know, if you're going to implement VLAN on a network, it has already a security measure that only with the same VLAN is only allowed to communicate to each other. So VLANs with different VLANs devices will not able to connect. But using the inter-VLAN, it will allow the communication of different VLANs to one another. So that is why the VLAN of 10 or the admission, VLAN of 20 accounting, VLAN of 30 register can communicate to VLAN 40 main office 1 together. So because that is what the implementation of our inter-VLAN in this project, and that's all. Thank you.